Well, howdy, Pastor Mark Driscoll here. Thanks for joining me for the weekly newsletter. I'll jump into the question this week in just a moment, but first want to give you an update on ministry and family. Thank you for praying and giving and caring and helping me get the word out regarding Jesus-centered Bible teaching. At present, we are posting the remainder of the 33 sermons from the 1 Corinthians series. We've titled it Good News for Bad Christians, and that series goes verse by verse through the entire book of 1 Corinthians. Part of the Gospel of Luke is also up. As soon as we're done posting the 33 sermons from 1 Corinthians, we'll post all 100 sermons from the Gospel of Luke, where I had the honor of teaching verse by verse through that entire book of the Bible. And then after that, Lord willing, sometime this summer when all of those sermons are posted, all 133, we will post 1 John. I just started yesterday a Bible study called The Father, Heart of God, and it's going verse by verse through 1 John. This was the first book of the Bible that I studied as a brand new Christian, and it is one of my favorite books of the Bible. I'm really excited to be teaching it, and so I'm teaching it verse by verse. It'll take 13 weeks here in Scottsdale, Arizona, and we are recording it in audio and video format, providing that all the technology works, as we're a church plant still in the core launch team phase. If we get it all together, our hope, our prayer, our goal is to give it away to you free online sometime this summer, and so that'll be all new content through a brand new book of the Bible as we are at the Trinity Church pressing forward, doing work parties every week, getting to know people, and Lord willing, we'll be launching that church publicly sometime around the start of school late this summer. And so you can be in prayer for us, and thank you to everyone who has been in prayer for us and our family. It's really fun actually to do it, church plant as a family. So we do work parties on Saturday and we all get our gloves on and roll in, and I call the kids the Levites. So I wake them up, all right, Levites, time to go to work. In the Old Testament, ministry was a family endeavor and the Levites were a ministry family, so that's kind of our in-house joke. But the kids have been throwing out trash and pulling weeds and doing demo and working with other people to get our quirky building ready for the launch. So that's what's going on with the family. The family's doing really well. Just got report cards, and kids are doing good, and they love the Lord, and Lord willing, we'll just keep moving forward as a family. It's crazy. I've got 3 teenagers, won't be too long, and I'll have 4 teenagers. Our oldest is in college. She's doing great, walking with Jesus. We visited her campus church on Easter, and it was awesome. She's got some wonderful, godly friends. Zach's playing baseball. He's 16. Gideon's playing baseball. He's 10. Calvin's 14. His season recently ended. Alexi's still cute and fun and hanging out with her friends, and Grace is the best friend anyone ever had. So our marriage is as close and friendly and intimate as it's ever been, and I just praise God for the family that God has given me and the wife that God has given me as well. So Lord willing, we'll just keep moving forward as a family, and we're doing really well, but we appreciate your concerns and prayers, and every once in a while I like to let you know how the family is doing. As well, we've been talking about giving away a reading list, and it's almost done. I'm no tech guy. Anything beyond an Etch-a-Sketch really stretches my capacity, but I did put together a list of categories and 100 recommended books for reading, and Lord willing, that'll be online very soon. We're just dialing it in so that it all works, and hopefully that'll serve you well. That is what's going on in family and ministry. All right, this week's question is from a gal named Colleen, and she says, I think my question is quite different, and I'm asking how you might counsel this couple. So I don't know if this is Colleen's question or if it's the question of a friend of hers. Usually when you get these kind of intimate, personal questions, it's like, my friend wants to know, and usually it's you. Anyways, maybe that's not the case. There are probably many couples, she says, in this situation more than we would presume. And recent statistics would indicate that there are marriages that are without any intimacy physically between the husband and the wife, and that number is tragically on the rise, particularly with adultery and pornography and open marriages and sexual abuse and all kinds of contributing variables. A couple gets married, she says, and of course the groom is very much looking forward to his wedding night, and they have both waited till marriage to be intimate. So we give them a big thumbs up for that. But the new husband soon finds out that, quote, his wife has no interest in a sexual relationship. She thinks it's kind of gross, weird, and only likes hugs, snuggling, and a peck on the cheek. The wife has had no previous sexual assault incidents that would make her view of sex like this in this manner. It's just a manner of her being asexual. There was no pre-marriage counseling, which is sad, which I hope would have brought this issue to the surface, but now they are married. My question would be, how do you counsel this couple? Would the husband be bound to a sexless marriage with no hope for children? Wow. I appreciate, first of all, being entrusted with this question. This is really personal, and there are a lot of couples that probably relate to it on varying levels. Some have absolutely no intimacy in their marriage. Some it is not free or frequent. There's a whole spectrum, but sadly, painfully, there are probably a lot of people that can relate to this. Well, Grace and I did address this in our book, Real Marriage. I'll do a little bit of summary of some of the things that we hit there. First of all, marriage is two things. It's covenant and consummation. Covenant with God and one another, and consummation. And so marriage includes the physical, sexual intimacy. That's part of the biblical design for marriage. It's covenant and consummation. And as well, we do hit in the book that there are basically three views of sexuality in marriage: gross, God, and gift. There goes the dog. Gross, God, and gift. Those who think it's gross, usually in my experience, it's either from an experience of abuse in their past. They were molested, they were raped, they were assaulted, they were presented with sexuality in a very gross context, very domineering context, very pornographic context. So for people that have experienced it or sense it in that way, it's just gross. For others, they see it as God. It's the most important thing in the world. If they don't get all the things that they want to do, they are miserable, they are domineering, they're overbearing, they're whiny, they're forceful, they're unfaithful. For them, sex is God. It's like an idol that they worship. And the way we're supposed to see it as a gift that God gives. It's not gross. It's something that God made and is beautiful and is a gift to a married couple. It's not God. It's not the most important thing in our life or even in our marriage, but it is a gift that God has given for the well-being of the marriage. And again, that covenant and consummation, it physically, emotionally, spiritually draws and pulls and connects the couple together in every way so that they can be one. Because that's the point of marriage in Genesis. God made the man and the woman to be one flesh, and that is one physical, emotional, spiritual life together. That being said, a couple of places I would send you with these friends of yours. 1 Corinthians 7, or maybe it is you. 1 Corinthians 7 is the text in the Bible that really does address this. It says, and I'm working from memory, but do not deprive one another but by mutual consent. So if one person says, I would like to have, a healthy sexual relationship with my spouse, and the other says, no, that's not mutual consent. Do not deprive. And that deprivation is there is an expectation of a physical relationship in a healthy, normal marriage. Now, to be sure, someone's deployed for the military, traveling on business, or there's a grave injury or illness, or someone is bedridden, or there's, a catastrophic problem in the marriage that needs counseling and help. There are some things that could be extenuating circumstances, but as a general rule, you're not supposed to deprive one another. In the same way, a husband couldn't look at his wife and say, or a wife couldn't look at her husband and say, I don't like to talk. I'm not really a verbal person. I don't like to communicate. So for the rest of our marriage, we're just not going to have any conversations. We would all say, well, that's not acceptable. Part of the expectation and obligation of marriage is to give yourself physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, verbally. And you can't say, well, there are just certain things I don't agree to. I'm not going to talk to you. I'm not going to sleep with you. I'm not going to live with you, but that's okay, because I just don't do those things. There are expectations on a marriage, and that's where a marriage is different than every other relationship, and it's the covenant and the consummation. That's really the difference between a friendship and a marriage. Grace and I are friends, and I've got other friends, but there's an aspect to our marriage that I don't do with my other friends, and that's what makes it a marriage. And so if you're removing the thing that actually makes it a marriage in the eyes of God, you really don't even understand the whole purpose of marriage. So 1 Corinthians 7 says, do not deprive one another, but by mutual consent, and for a time, a season, a short break, so that you can devote yourself to prayer, bring it to the Lord, heal up, work out your differences, meet with a biblical counselor, a pastor, go in to get your medical test, whatever the case may be, and then to rejoin normal relations so that Satan doesn't come in and tempt you with bitterness, with pornography, with adultery, with all kinds of temptation for sexual sin. That's what 1 Corinthians 7 basically says. Now, when I present this verse, I don't want it to be used in a domineering way, like you owe me this. But I'm saying that the hope and the prayer and the goal should be for each person to work toward that mutual giving. And so my question would be, if this person sees sex as gross, is it from bad religious teaching to where they are being told or have been told from a real strong religious, unhealthy background that it's gross? I always say it's dirty, nasty, vile, and wrong, so save it for the one you love. I mean, that's just a horrible thing that sometimes we tell preteens and teens to keep them from sexual sin, but it also keeps them from marital health. Sometimes women are told, the only reason you should ever be intimate with your husband is for the purpose of childbearing so that you can get pregnant. And it shouldn't be for any other reason. There's lots of strange, bizarre, more Gnostic, ancient teaching that comes in. And we've got this in the book, Real Marriage. I can't get into all of it, but have they gotten bad teaching? Has there been abuse? And I would double check that. Or have they been in an environment where maybe dad was a porn head, watching porn all the time, or was very vulgar or very gross, or something of that nature, to where the parents were unfaithful, or an open marriage, and the child grew up and just, man, this is all just very gross and very confusing. Then there needs to be healing and teaching. The other thing I would ask is this something that is a medical problem? Maybe they need to go in and just physically get tested, like hormone levels and health, and is this a healthy, normal person, or is there a physical thing that's going on? In addition to the medical, I would ask the other marital questions like, okay, there's frustration in the bedroom, but what's going on outside of the bedroom? Is the husband being harsh, boorish, overbearing, demanding? Is he just an unsafe person? Is his wife just feeling like he's not a safe person to be with? Then those are issues outside of the bedroom that are affecting issues in the bedroom. But ultimately, this is going to take a godly, biblical, the Holy Spirit filled and led counselor to sit down with this couple and to really get into this most intimate aspect and element of their life. But ultimately, God's goal is for free and frequent intimacy between a husband and a wife, loving, cherishing, nourishing, giving, verbally, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, giving of yourself one to the other in a safe, healthy, God-glorifying, honoring, respectful context where it helps to bring about increased oneness. And insofar as, well, does he just not have any intimacy with his wife for the rest of their life and they never have children? Is that okay? I would say that's not healthy. That's not biblical. And I don't mean to shame someone or put someone in a position to dominate or domineer or force someone to do something they don't want to do, but they need help to figure out what's underlying and causing this, because that's not healthy, that's not natural, that's not why God made us male and female, that's not his intent for the covenant of marriage. And ultimately, in my opinion as a pastor with 20 years experience, this is not a marriage that will make it for 30, 40, 50 years if there isn't any physical intimacy. It's going to lead to a lot of bitterness, hurt, frustration, temptation, and I don't think that marriage is going to have a really long lifespan because, like 1 Corinthians says, Satan's going to get in there and he is going to wreak havoc, and he probably already is. So I love you. I'm praying for you. I know that's a lot at once, but someone who is really wise in this area needs to get involved and be involved. 1 Corinthians 7 is a good place to start. Our book, Real Marriage, addresses some of this as well, and reading other good Christian books on the issue will help the renewing of the mind, and that ultimately leads to a transformation in behavior, because as we start to think as God thinks, we start to desire as God intends, and we start to obey as God instructs. So that's it. Pastor Mark here signing out. God bless you.